Okay, I've got some sound here and it's 11:55, so I'm a little bit early and I understand that. So I'm sure I'll have some folks join me today. Remember, the way that I handle attendance is this. When you log into a screencast, if it's live, that certainly counts. If you aren't able to make one or both of them, as long as you log in and view the screencast sometime that week, you've attended. If you've not, you haven't attended. And I do check this, and the university does ask us to check this, and I check to see who's logged in and who has not. So we're here today. This is of course business BISS 3503, and I am indeed a little bit early, but that's okay. We'll shave it off at the front end. And who knows, there may be a tornado alert over there or whatever. So my expectation is I'll see some people here, but I'm not seeing, maybe I'll see some as you come in. Now, let's talk about week today, and this is the week of the 3rd, the 5th, and the 7th. Of course, there was no class conveniently on Labor Day. So I think I posted something in lieu of Labor Day, but we do have some business that we need to attend to, and I want to make sure that I cover it. Hi there, glad to see you. I started a little bit early, Olivia, and so don't worry about it. We're in good shape, and I wanted just to make certain on a logistical detail. If you don't have a microphone so you could ask a question if you wanted to, you can send me, you can use a chat function, and that chat will alert me. It doesn't show what you say, that's invisible, but if it's just a question that everybody would want to hear, I'll go, Olivia said, what about so-and-so? And that way I can answer questions during a screencast. So Olivia, once this is posted, you'll want to go back and go back 3 or 4 minutes or so, and you'll catch the front end of this. But we are at week number 2, and I want to just make sure that everybody is certain about what we've got going on. First of all, you've got the Loudon, number 2. That's due, and I'll click on it for a moment. Okay, and sometimes I have to accommodate students. It's due on the 7th at 5 p.m. And the same story with the management decision problem and the Facebook problem. Now, I'm going to go over here to and pop in over here to Vital Book Source. And I'll go to my bookshelf. And here we are. And we're over here in chapter 2. Now, I'm going to take just a few minutes to do a brief review, and then we're going to go out and do a little bit of what I would call a web safari. I'm going to go out in a couple of places where we're going to find some articles and information germane to the topic. And this chapter just really it zeroes in some on social networking and social media and starts it off with the case. But each time as we get to every single chapter, you're going to find this figure, okay? And this is the information management, MIS, what I would call a virtual cycle. Notice it's a model, and we start with some type of business issue. And you can see, of course, the business challenge, and then the management, organization, and technology that we bring to bear on that. And we put that into the information system, and you can see providing some new channels, and then the business solution. and to reduce costs. When you do this in larger companies, it's typically in terms of a project. And so those of you who are management students who are taking the production project course are getting some good help, for the simple reason that you're getting some experience and you understand what's going on with the project. It looks like I had somebody else join. Glad to see you here, Hannah. Glad to see you. So I'll close that off. Now, again, you'll see this at the start of every chapter after it introduces us to the problem. Now, this is a very important piece, and again, a lot of this course is more about vocabulary and conceptual material than it is about doing specific things with a computer. This is kind of a policy course as regards information system. And so here we have basically what we would call a data flow diagram, which walks us through order fulfillment. And again, information technology, information systems are integral to the global marketplace, not only in terms of handling transactions like a PayPal or you go into Amazon and buy something or anyone, or say you have one of these wallets in your iPhone. All of that is the same with logistics or the global supply chain, tracking stuff. Where is that? Which networks, which vendors tend to perform better than others, etc. And you could see the information flow that occurs, and it's triggered by an activity, a sale, okay? And then it flows over into the accounting section and it generates an invoice, okay? And then that moves us down to an operational issue where then these top two are solely moving information, okay? This bottom is an operational activity that's supported by these two. This can't happen unless these other things occur. And so that just shows you a small piece of an order fulfillment process, because what we don't have, but you would have, is some way to track the goods as they go, as they're on the way somewhere. So again, this is the order fulfillment process, but it's just a portion of it. Now, attached to the delivery, etc., is going to probably be some way to capture the customer's happiness or unhappiness with a given system. And that's what we call customer relationship management. Again, we're thinking at the highest levels of the organization. That's what this course is about. Now, you can see here, for example, they give you a payroll transaction processing system, okay? That's what the TPS stands for. And you'll notice you've got the employee data that goes into the payroll system. The payroll system feeds it back to the general ledger, okay? And then it also generates various management reports, and it's fed into the employee file and database, okay? And then you've got a way for people to do an online inquiry, and you have the reported data to the government, the employer's share of taxes, FICA, all that business, and then the employee paychecks. ADP is, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the largest processor of payrolls in the world. And they have really perfected this. At one point, APD was a paper and pencil operation along with an affiliation with FedEx and UPS. And so checks would physically be delivered that day after they'd been processed at night, and they would be delivered in a packet to an employer's doorstep. Well, that's been bypassed because now you have an online transaction processing system. And this isn't any data, as opposed to, say, employee data. This could be sales data fed into a sales database or warehouse, and over here to the ledger, generate management reports. The whole idea, and one important thing to understand, okay, is that MIS allows us to identify templates that we can use to carry different kinds of content. It's analogous to, I have a plate. I can put steak on that plate. I can put fried chicken. I can put a hamburger, but I've got a plate. It holds food. And a transaction processing system is content neutral. In other words, you just have to adjust the content. It will handle everything else from there on. And you've got, as you can see, you've got system inputs, outputs, and then you also have an ability for somebody online to check their how much they're going to get paid that week, or what's going on, that type of thing. So that's the value of these systems. And like I said, ADP, they're a very valuable company. Now, PayPal, as many of you may have used PayPal, was a disruptor in terms of being an intermediary between a customer and a bank. So what PayPal did is this: they stepped in between the customer and the bank and said, okay, and once the person is paying at really what happens is the person makes a purchase, and the vendor, restaurant, whoever, triggers a bill based upon a credit card or phone swipe, whatever, and that goes back to that person's bank. But if they use PayPal, then they already have a stored amount of money in PayPal if they want to pay it. Or the business will just simply say, PayPal's like our register, send your card and all that, and your bank will settle up with this. But PayPal and these kinds of online systems have completely disrupted, especially the HR world, because these things are all done now digitally. And so it's a template. Now they talk about systems for business intelligence, and you have a text and we'll be talking about that. But this intelligence, this system, okay, this is designed to take, as I mentioned here, obtain data from the organization's transaction processing system. In other words, to get all of that data. If you've had data admin with me, or then you understand the concept of the data warehouse, okay, and that whole idea of a data mart, and how we pull data that are fact data, something happened on a given day for so much, blah, 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 plus attributional data, like the name of the person, their first and last, what state they live, all of that business. And we tie that into a TPS so we can generate queries, and we can generate insight depending upon what we consider our key performance indicators, our KPIs. So again, you have to think of this, it's a template, all right? It's like a plate. And as long as you don't break the plate, you can put any kind of food in, and you wash the plate after you eat, but you have a plate. And that's the value of these information systems. At the second and deeper level, what this does is this has opened up some opportunities for people to work as intermediaries, or to work as amalgamators. ADP, for example, okay, has eliminated a lot of payroll departments. If I have to do a payroll of 5 people, why would I possibly sit down and try to do all that myself? I'll just ship it off to ADP and I'll pay a fee and I'm done with it. I know it's done right. I know the checks arrive, they're there, etc. In fact, they'll usually now they have a capacity, of course, where you can put your checks directly, do a direct deposit. And the other, you have ways here, and I'm certain at some point there will be some way that, you know, people, there are some ways now people handle things like cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin, but that's a little bit beyond what we're talking about here. But you can see as we end up, I've talked about this, the online display and dashboard. This is where, okay, I have information that's actionable, something I can do with it, something I can work with. Again, I want to apologize. This is conceptual stuff, it's vocabulary, and it's really like a policy course. This is not like you're writing programs or stuff like that. Now, they give you a sample MIS report, okay? And you can see the product codes, all of that data, and we see actual versus plan. And what you see there is that we are, for example, on carpet cleaner in the Northeast, our sales are down about 15%. Now, happily, in the Midwest, our sales are up 6%, and in the South, they're up 1%. But you know, overall, well, you know, we're about 95%. Now, if we've budgeted to spend $17,550,000 by this point, and we actually have 16 grand in cash, we either will need to have a short-term financing facility like a revolving loan with the bank or folks of that ilk, or we are going to have to do some cuts. Now, what you probably would want to do is you plan for 17.5 in terms of the total for the carpet cleaner. You plan for that. You hope for that, but you really plan for some type of variance back lower than what you have. And this is going to have to be driven by historical data and also just monitoring your sites, monitoring the data as it comes in terms of purchases from whatever platform you use, be it ground-based or physical. So again, this is what the MIS tells you something in terms of I can make some actions. I can figure out, do I need to raise prices? Is there something with the product? That's where I'm going to have to go get some customer relationship management information to put this into perspective. Now, the text covers this issue of a decision support system. And let's see, hi, I've got Olivia, Michael. I'm glad to see Michael and Hannah. Glad to have you here. Good. Thank you for being here. And I close that off for a sec. All right. Now, we're going to continue on. And this is a dashboard. All right. Now, you'll notice that this dashboard covers 4 items: sales by type, return on investment. It's really 5. I've got sales by type, sales revenue, media utilization, return on investment, and I have a couple of speedometer types in terms of average quantity and average amount. So this would be a dashboard with this much detail, probably for a VP of sales. Maybe if you're an executive team and you have a big company, you'll probably have 6 or 7 dashboards dealing with various aspects of the firm. But when you hear people talk about dashboard, there's really nothing exotic about that. What you have underneath these is a database that lets you, a database that is automated, that gives you these data in this format every single day. And then again, you'll see that term key performance indicators. So when you hear somebody say KPI, they're talking about key performance indicators. Now, again, They've got a couple of case studies there and what they talk about in terms of enterprise applications. The best example of an enterprise application would be email. Everybody at OBU uses email. Not everybody at OBU uses Zoom. Not everybody at OBU uses Canvas, LMS. But we all use the email. We all use Banner. We all use DegreeWorks. Those are enterprise level systems. Well, they're actually enterprise level applications. But you can see the enterprise application architecture. And you can see how they meld in with the various functions in the company. This is a very nice, I think, a nice depiction of what we're looking at. Now, we get into supply chain management systems, customer relationship management systems, intranets and extranets. As you know, an intranet is a network that is closed looped in terms of it is only available to the members of a company. That's an intranet. And then extranets are internets that are connected to others like the World Wide Web. And so you'll see, or they're tied into a specialized, or they're tied into another company's intranet. Now, the business about collaboration, I want to take a few minutes to speak about it. One of the things that we can do with digital technology is we can get customers to collaborate. Let me give an example, okay? 25 years, 30 years ago, when I'd go to pay a bill, for example, I would just simply write the check, and the merchant would take the check, and they would have to do all the work. Now, if I have a transaction processing system, I signed up with them or registered with them. I have an app on my phone, for example, and I open the app and use it to access or to have the execution of some type of action to have it take place. Okay, that's a big difference from where we've been before. This idea that we work in collaboration, I think probably it would be interesting for you to go over to some of these sites like, I'd say, Cadillac, Volvo, Land Rover, Alfa Romeo. You go over there and you'll find that they'll have a thing where you can build your car, literally, with the color, the whole bit, and then you click, you submit, and they do a credit check, etc. And if you're good to go, they make the car to your specifications. A salad bar in a restaurant is all about your collaboration. The restaurateur just lays this food out and says, "Hey, come get it," and you bring your plate and put the stuff on your plate. You're basically handling food presentation and food selection and menu, and that's why a lot of these places they love a buffet, because with a buffet you give the customer complete responsibility for filling their plate, etc. As opposed to a restaurant where you go order the stuff. And this also includes some issues where a company interfaces with another company, say a supplier or a firm in which they're engaged in a strategic alliance. And those types of partnership arrangements. And as the authors point out, it changes the company in ways we really are coming to understand. for example, many times you're going to find yourselves working with a team of people who are maybe from all over the world in all kinds of time zones. You may find yourself in a situation where you're working with a team of people who represent different vendors of a company. Airlines, when they order an airplane, they work with thousands of vendors, all the way from the major vendors down to the people who are the sub vendors, down to the level that one person who makes one part, that's all they do, or a part of a part for an airplane. And in the graduate class, when I'm taught IT, we've used the 777 as a case in point where the lack of integration created a lot of cost overruns and problems in building that plane. And remember, that plane was built by by vendors in several different countries. Well, you could see why we start to. I'd say to you, these technologies offer a hint at new ways of doing business, because one of the key issues is the issue of collaboration. And we find people to work with us and collaborate with. And that's going to become more and more prevalent as we go on. And you can read these faster than I can possibly speak them. Okay. One of them, my wife is a big fan of FAQs and complaints about products. When she buys something that doesn't work, she is immediately out there on the web looking for a discussion board with people talking about a problem that exists. And a lot of companies really coach people to do that. I'm going to pick on OBU, okay? And I'm going to tell you something I don't like. When I log in, the chat desk, the chat function, the help desk pops up on my computer, and I'm fine with that, okay? But if I need help, they ask me for a piece of information that I don't want to give them, because I don't know if it is indeed them or somebody is mimicking them. And so when I do the chat function, I've not done the chat function. I've said, if you ask me for that piece of information, I'm not going to give it to you. I'm a little nervous about it. And when we get into studying things like ethics and identity theft, all I can say is this: colleges, universities, and institutions of post-secondary education are like honey to a bee. The bee is an identity theft professional. Why? Because you're young, you have plausible data, might have a credit card, you've got a driver's license, all that. So just simply building an identity is already there. And so that's why I think colleges and universities are extremely vulnerable. And if you check your OBU email every week, there's 3 or 4 different ways that people try to go fishing with us and get them to answer. Well, and we see some of the benefits of that collaboration. Now, some of these things like virtual worlds are still very esoteric, very, very exotic, and really the province of organizations that have hundreds of millions of dollars at their disposal to create those types of environments. And I think the most obvious of them is certainly going to be airlines. And they talk about the 3D environments that firms are doing, and the airlines have been doing this a long time. They have flight simulators where, and so does the U.S. Air Force and Navy. Well, all 3 of the branches that have any kind of airframes have a simulator for that airframe, so that you sit down, you see outside, a picture of the outside. You're in a real environment with real controls, and that simulator will pitch and yaw and change altitude and all of that, and then they'll throw in some system failures. Now, a lot of this got developed during the space program in the 1960s, and if you've ever seen the famous movie Apollo 13, you'll know that one of the astronauts who was scheduled to go supposedly got the mumps, so they left him behind. Well, it found that it came out he didn't have the mumps, but he got into the simulator, and they had to find some codes and sequences to walk them through that process of doing a burn so they could come into the Earth's atmosphere, hit it at the right point, and so they had to put together some filters so they could adjust the filters so they wouldn't get carbon monoxide, their air would be clean. And it was only because they had that simulator that they were able to work from that type of distance and help themselves out. So these things are still fairly exotic, but one of these days they'll be out there. Social business platforms, virtual meeting systems. I mean, all of those things are there. Zoom, for example, I'm using it to teach a class. I could use Zoom to hold a meeting if I wanted to. And so we've got these kinds of platforms to communicate, and they do a pretty good job. Although, okay, there's right now Facebook, I would say Twitter, and I think Facebook and Twitter, and who else would be a social media is kind of on the hot spot. Maybe Instagram, but certainly Facebook and Twitter are two social media that are really in the crosshairs of everybody because of privacy breaches, because of the hacking in the 2016 elections, all of that business. In fact, just for fun, I'm going to go over to the New York Times here for a second. And I want to show you a very interesting article. I think it'd be worth it. They've still got the thing up. Let's see here. I'll find it here for just a second. And let me pop over to, as you can see, there's some articles here about all the issues that they're running into. Let me go to the text section. And I'm sorry about that. I'm going to have to look it back up and put a link in here. But oh, here it is. Good. It's from the 4th. This is fascinating stuff. Now, what they've done here, this is an article in the New York Times, and they ask you whether or not you can spot a deceptive Facebook post. And they walk you through. It's almost like a game you play, and which one of them, which one is from a fake page. And each time you make your choice, they tell you how you did. Plus, they give you some information or insights in how folks who monitor that issue, how they decide whether or not a Facebook post is fake or not. I would encourage you to go there and take a look at it because I think it's it's very interesting to see the algorithms that those firms use, that Facebook uses. Some of it is human judgment. Some of it is just simply algorithmically based, and you'll see some interesting insights. So I think that's it would certainly be your worthwhile to take over there. Now, I think having come through a lot of this, I think you can see, and they give us a good amount of information about things like, and they mentioned down here the Google Drive. We have OneDrive we have the Microsoft. Google has a cloud-based drive. You can work up documents together. You can collaborate. All of that is a way to overcome a lot of the issues of time and distance and energy, so a team can meet and they can work on a document collectively. I've done some editing for a couple of journals that are online academic journals, and the way and what some authors have researchers have opted to do is to say, okay, here's some data I collected. Here's what I believe. Here's the background of what I'm working on, and getting the law done out there, it appears. And I'd like any of you who are out there who are fellow researchers or to go, scientists, take the data and you analyze them and see if you get what I got. Or if there's a different way I should have done it, do it. This is an interesting process in science, and it's really it's really closer to the original way that we did science back in the 18th and the 19th century. The word journal, okay, it's something I write and I keep. Now today, journals crank out finished pieces of research that have been vetted, etc. But in the old days, if you're a researcher back in the 18th, 19th century, you worked on something and you sent your notes, you mailed them to someone else, or you kept a journal of what you were working on, and you would send it to, say, the Royal Society and have everybody look it over, see what they found. So these online journals where people are working on data real time are a step back, and I think an interesting way to do science, and maybe a little bit better way. That would be pretty much it in terms of what we've got. A lot of this, again, is just simply vocabulary. And as I said before, you can read it much faster than I could ever speak it to you. Now, I'm going to go in here for a moment because I want to talk about something that I think, as I've graded work this week. Now, as I grade your work, you're going to notice I'm using the virtual language processor that will take speech to text, and it's an interesting thing. And I'm using it to see if it's easier and faster than just simply writing something out. I want to use a thing that's called it has a little media button where I can press and I can speak, you can see me. But it's a heavy duty use of server space, so I'm choosing not to do that. However, if I want to in the grade client, I can indeed give you have a little video of me where I talk to you and tell you what I thought. The problem is it's bandwidth. Now, I believe if I could do that, it would really take the feedback you get from me using voice to text to a whole different level where you could hear tone and you could see my face and all of that. But it's a constraint budget-wise, because when you do that, it starts to build up. You have a lot of storage capacity. But you've seen me do it. I may do it just one time or so, just to kind of give you a feel of what it looks like and how it feels. But I would venture a guess that you'd say, "Gosh, I don't feel so disconnected if I can see the person." Now, some faculty who use Zoom or tools like this like to put their picture down in the corner so that you can see them. And I don't know that really is that big of a deal because we have a hybrid format anyway. So I'm trying to use it in that regard. Now, over here in the resources section, I want to make certain that I don't overlook a very, very important piece, and it's this. It's the OBU Library online resources, okay? Now, look here. And here are the folks who help us that have all at the OBU Library, who can help us with using library. And I just had someone pop up, and I'll put, you need help? I'll put chat now, and I'm going to put this is Dr. Harmon. Now this is one of those collaborative things, as you can see, Harmon, and they want my email to know who I is, and I'll put that. Because they don't want to be spending their time helping somebody from another university. That's no good. And I'll put in my department. It's like, and I'm going to say the public services, and I'll put, how are you? I am doing a screencast, a live screencast of BISS 3503 to show, instead of I better change that. Whoops. Hello. Sorry. I have to show students business resources online. Okay, and I'll start that chat, and the librarian will connect with us shortly. Now they're going to collaborate with me, and here's Jennifer's joined the chat. Jennifer's going to tell me something, and I'll see what Jennifer's got to say, and I'll submit that. And let's see if she has anything to say. Now, if I'm confused about something or I needed some help, here's one of those collaborative services. This is basically nothing more than a short messaging service that Jennifer can speak to me. Now, I have, it looks like, some options where I can turn the sound on. I could maybe long frame chat. And I'm just going to tell her, I'll encourage students to use your help. Have a great day. You can see if I wanted to. And notice she says to me, if is there anything that can help me find? But this is a nice tool, so trust me, it will be worth your time when you need to come up with some references for this course, for example, that you'll go over there and use it. And so Jennifer's spoken with us. We've had a nice chat, and away we go. We're disconnected now, so we'll get out of that. All right. And we're going to leave that piece and go back to books and resources. I want you to see these, where they're available, etc. All of these books and resources, the journals in the library. This is just fantastic. You can see they really lay it out there for you. Now, here's Big Charts, for example. It's a service of Market Watch, and it gives you market charts. I mean, if you're into that, I'll put no thanks. And we're good to go. Let's go back now, and we'll take this off here. And we're back to BISS 3503, and I'll chunk that off there. Okay. So I want you to make certain that you use those resources because they're there for you to use. I'm also going to do a quick little commercial. I'm okay with what I'm seeing, except sometimes your references aren't too great in terms of how they're laid out. They're not following APA format. So I just want to show you real quickly. There are tools in Microsoft Word, and I'm just going to open this out, that will create a that will help you create a reference. And I'm going to click References. Okay, and you'll see right over here, you're going to see where I can insert citation, manage sources, I can add a source, etc. And all I have to do is put in the information and it will format it perfectly. So I don't think there's any reason why you shouldn't be using this as you write your case report to me, and instead of giving me 6 links which are unintelligible, give me a good reference, and you can use it as practice for such. So I want to encourage you to use that. And okay, all right, now again, some other resources that are out there: Harvard Business School, MIT Sloan, Knowledge at Horton, and again, they are here's a great source of information: Christian Business Faculty Association. So I've curated some sources for you that I'd like you to go take a look at. Now, given what we're talking about this week in this text, and here we're back in the textbook, all right, again, we just are now coming to the point where we understand how to use these technologies, especially in terms of collaborative services and social business applications. As you saw there, they had a librarian there who was ready to help us out. Okay, and so I wanted to let you see that and take a look at it. Now, I mentioned earlier about Facebook as being one of those sites, and I want to go back for a moment over here and let me sneak us on down to the phones ringing off the wall. As usual, here is a good professional resource for you, and this is Insights by Stanford Business. And you can go over and see what's on their mind. You can go over and visit for free. Okay? And here's an interesting article about, this is back from August, it's a automated vehicles. And a lot of different, a lot of different articles that will give you a sense of what's going on in terms of what business is talking about. And here's one: the consequences of viral outrage. We're seeing this phenomenon where somebody will post something, and it might be true or false, but it's like an avalanche. And I think one of these Fox sports shows, the guy says, "Here comes the Twitter avalanche." Boy, nothing could be more descriptive. And you can get hundreds of people. One of the people I follow, I think is interesting in how he responds to people, is William Shatner. William Shatner, I'm a follower of his, and he's always dealing with somebody who's mad at him because he wouldn't sign an autograph. He wouldn't stop eating his meal and go sign their autograph or come over and say hi to grandma. He's an original in every sense of the word. And so it's fun to watch him. And there are times I'll email him and I'll tweet to him and say, "Hey, interesting stuff." And sometimes he'll pop on back and go, "Yeah," because I'm generally sympathetic to his plight. I know he's an actor and he's famous and all that. But if he can't sit down in a restaurant and have a meal with his family, at what point have people just kind of lost their manners? Now, if you've ever lived if you've ever lived in or spent a considerable amount of time in either New York or Los Angeles, and this would be true to a certain extent in Chicago, they're so used to seeing famous people that it doesn't even really doesn't even really hit anybody's radar. New York particularly, you might be in a really nice restaurant, look up and see any one of the number of actors, people are there on a shoot, or they're doing business, or who live there, and you just go, oh, okay, there's Robert Redford, or you know, there's so-and-so, good for you. Okay, now, again, here's another one of these articles about why every business will be a subscription business. Avail yourself, of these resources, because they're great ones. Now, we'll go back here, and I've got a couple of others that I want to point out to you. Okay, and one is Harvard Business School and MIT Sloan Management School. Their online publications, Knowledge Important, and then I've got some information on our policies and so forth, how to make a transcript of a YouTube video, etc. And some of the Canvas course schedule resources are what you can see. Well, you know what you've got ahead of you for this week, and we'll pop down here to back to week number 2, and you've got this case follow-up. It's due on Friday, same with the management decision problem, and then the tests from Loudon, and again, based upon Chapter 2. And in Chapter 2, we've talked about the use of collaborative services and networking technology and what they do for us. And in some of your cases, I believe one of your cases last week, you addressed the issue of at what point does the technology start to run the company as opposed to the company use the technology. And that can happen. What's more likely is technology's kind of ingratiates what. I'm going to give you a really good example. Those of you who are, most of you have been here 2 or 3 years, you remember we used to have a thing called Jupyter Grades. Jupyter Grades has gone away. But we had a faculty member at one point who found Jupyter Grades, saw that we could use it, got the institution to use Jupyter Grades, and for years people used it, and the number of people using it, it just kept building and building and building. And then when they decided to not use it anymore because we've got Canvas, a lot of people, including me, were not happy. Now, it was extra work for me to enter a grade here in Canvas and over there in Jupyter Grades, but I liked the layout, okay? Much better than the layout here, but the decision's been made. But the thing that's interesting is I saw people who who didn't care at all about technology, yet very, very passionate about that grading, that application. And we had many who, when we moved from Moodle to Canvas, were not happy. These are people who had never used an LMS in their life, suddenly getting attached, because once you start to see what you can do with it, it's amazing. Same thing with these vital texts and so forth. Again, the whole idea of the technology provides a template or a way to get things done. Now, I think we've pretty much gone over everything we could do as far as this, and there are many of these concepts that I think you've seen them before, but again, this is more of a macro approach, and so again, I think you can read it a lot faster than I can see it, and you'll have this chapter, but you can see we're dealing with really 2 things: vocabulary building and thinking at a business or an enterprise level thought process. In the end, and you hear me say this in every lecture, IT, information systems, are decision-centric when they work well. They are intended to help you make a decision. If they don't do that, then they're not functioning like they should, and you're spending money you might as well just write everybody a check and send them home, because you've got to make certain that they are decision-centric, those systems. They bring you to a point where you can make a decision, and that you've got the right information at the right time to do that. This dashboard. Many of you will go to work and see dashboards like this, or some more complicated. You may have 3 pages on your computer where you have dashboards if you work for a really complex firm. And if the underlying database is no good, the data you get, it's still thing of garbage in, garbage out. Okay, folks, thank you so much, and I would encourage you to take a look at these cases. I think this week we have 2 really good cases, and I think the Facebook is about as timely as it could possibly be. And then note, you can work on either one of these management decision problems, okay? And you can work on the either one, MDP 2.8 or MDP 2.9. It's your choice, but upload your work when you're finished. And then, of course, you have the Loudon chapter and that quiz is due. So now I've got 4 of you in here, and I'm going to see, does anybody have a question I can try to help you with? Anybody? Okay, folks, well, I appreciate the time. And again, I look forward to seeing your work. And I will, hopefully, we are now going to be in a situation where we're actually meeting on Monday, physically, there at OVU. And then, of course, virtual Wednesdays like we're doing. Thank you so much. And I will see everybody on Monday. Take care.